Here we're going to learn what is a heat dome and why is it causing extreme temperatures in Canada and United States. When you look at the words heat dome, a dome is a round roof of a building or structure, or you can also call it a semi-spherical structure. So heat dome basically means the heat of the environment is trapped within the atmospheric layer, as if there is a dome that is blocking or trapping the heat close to the Earth's surface. Because of that, the heat is being radiated back to the Earth. In this case, the heat dome is formed over North America. Because of that, there has been a sudden rise in the temperature of this region. Now the question is, how did heat get trapped? Well, there are several factors that have to come together for this phenomenon to occur. First, of course, you need high temperature. As you all know, 21st of June was summer solstice. And what happens during summer solstice? That day the northern hemisphere will have most amount of sunlight. We also call it the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. As we all know, the northern hemisphere experiences summer during the months of June, July and August because it is tilted towards the sun and receives the most direct sunlight. After the summer solstice, the days starts getting shorter. In other words, the northern hemisphere slowly starts tilting away from the sun. That is how by the end of the year, that is around October, November and December, the northern hemisphere reaches its winter season. Southern hemisphere of the earth witnesses summer season. That is why you must have heard that during Christmas, Australia witnesses summer season. Anyhow, I hope you have now understood why the northern hemisphere is so warm during June and July month. On the western side of the North America, you will find the Pacific Ocean. Imagine this Pacific Ocean as a large swimming pool, which is being heated. As the temperature rises, the area surrounding the Pacific Ocean will also warm up. As we all know, land heats and cools more quickly than water. And this creates a strong temperature gradient. Change of temperature causes pressure differences, because we know that winds move from high pressure to low pressure region. Now the next thing that we have to understand is that when air heats up, it tends to rise, because anything that gets heated up expands, and when it is cooled, it contracts. Similarly, when air molecules are warm, they expand. In other words, there is more space between the air molecules, and that is what makes the warm air floats upward. This process is also known as convection. So the warm air of the Pacific Ocean moves towards the central and eastern Pacific side, which are comparatively cooler. And that is what becomes the prevailing westerly winds. Now, as we go more and more towards the polar region, temperature drops. It gets cold. And you must also understand that cold air is also moving from the poles towards the warmer region. Since cold air is dense and heavy, it usually flows nearer to the ground. We also call it polar easterlies. But then the entire polar region is cold, so air is cold everywhere, both at the surface as well as in the upper atmosphere. When warm air approaches the cold air coming from north, since the cold air is dense and heavy, it pushes the warm air upward. This region is usually called a low pressure region. The rising warm air then comes in contact with the east flowing jet stream. And by the way, jet streams are cold air moving in the upper atmosphere. Now when this warm air comes in contact with the jet stream, it splits. One goes east and the other goes west. There's another belt of cold dry air that comes from the poles, which descend from the upper atmosphere and fills up the middle region of the cold surface air and warm rising air. This basically traps the warm air and moves it towards the land, where it sinks, resulting in heat wave. That means this cold dry air that is coming from the North Pole, along with the eastern flowing jet stream, acts like a dome, which is blocking the warm air and pushing it towards the land.
Politicians may still debate it, but it's getting harder and harder to deny, with temperatures climbing to new heights everywhere. Something's going on out there. David Pogue takes us to Phoenix, where the heat is on.
The last 8 years have been the hottest years ever measured on the planet. July was the hottest month ever recorded. July 6 was the hottest day. All over the planet, the heat broke temperature records, including in Siberia, 103 degrees. More than half the U.S. population was subject to heat warnings in July. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, the heat has broken all kinds of records, including the longest streak of consecutive days where the temperature hit 110 degrees or hotter.
Really cooking today in Phoenix, 118 degrees. I think tomorrow will be even hotter.
And it's not just the hot air that's dangerous, it's the surfaces. This steering wheel, 162.5. This sidewalk is 144 Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to burn your dog's paws in 60 seconds. And this playground slide for children, 182.8 degrees.
People say, oh, you live in Phoenix, it's a dry heat. And honestly, 100, 105 is not bad. But I want to stress very strongly, nobody is acclimated to 115, 118 degrees. More troublesome is the fact that the low temperatures...
Melissa Guardaro is an extreme heat researcher at Arizona State University. Have there been in Phoenix hospitals a rise in admissions?
Absolutely. The most number of hospital admissions for heat stress that we've ever had.
What can you tell us about the ways your life changes during a heat wave like this?
So you don't work out outdoors at 11 o'clock. You go and you hike at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I actually have mittens in my car so that when the steering wheel gets really hot, I put my mittens on and that's how I drive.
You know you're living in a hot place when you have to keep oven mitts in your glove compartment.
Yeah, probably not in the glove compartment because you can't touch the metal tab.
So why has so much of the country been scorching for so long? Well, allow me to introduce that breakout weather term of 2023, the heat dome. It's an area of high pressure way up high that traps the warm air like the lid on a pot. It traps the heat, it stops rain from moving in to cool us off, and it just sits there. Unfortunately, not every area under the heat dome suffers equally. You want to know who gets the worst of it?
Cities are where heat comes to stay and comes to live.
Becca Benner is a director of climate issues at the nonprofit Nature Conservancy.
Cities on average are several degrees warmer than the surrounding areas, and just because of so much pavement, it tends to absorb heat better and reflect heat better.
They call it the urban heat island effect. Too much pavement, not enough trees and greenery to cool things off. The heat island effect is worst in the poorer areas of our cities where there aren't many trees, and even the bus stops don't always offer shade. Carlos Galvez lives in Phoenix without air conditioning, electricity, or even running water. The thermometer on his wall registers 109. Are you able to sleep in this heat?
If I sleep for half an hour, then I'll lie awake for an hour after that because it's just so hot.
Do you have some tricks to stay cool in here?
I drink a lot of water, and twice a day I pour a bucket of water on myself, and I just try to rest in the evening.
In Phoenix, you can get free transportation to the city's 90 cooling centers.
More hard for me, more hard this summer.
But ever since he collapsed from the heat last month, Galvez is worried about leaving his house.
I'm afraid I could faint again if I go out during the day, so I wait till the sun is going down to go out to get ice or water.
Even for people who have air conditioning, not everyone can afford to use it. The average bill for AC in Phoenix is over $450 a month.
We have a group of people who have to make very difficult choices. Do I pay for air conditioning or do I pay for my rent? This kind of heat wave is bringing up all the chinks in the infrastructure.
Last month, President Biden announced some small steps toward adapting to dangerous heat, like expanding access to drinking water, improving weather forecasts, and setting up a heat alert system.
We should be protecting workers from hazardous conditions, and we will.
But Guardaro maintains that there's much more to be done. City planners should develop heat infrastructure, like cooling centers and strategic greenery, and the federal government should start taking heat as seriously as it treats other climate disasters.
FEMA has never declared extreme heat as a disaster.
Wait. So flooding and hurricane, all those things can be designated federal disaster areas, but not heat?
Not heat. Standing up more cooling centers, providing greater services for people. No, that is not reimbursed by the government because there has never been a FEMA extreme heat declared disaster.
Which climate crisis disaster kills the most people?
Extreme heat is the climate disaster that kills the most people. In fact, it kills more people than all of the other disasters combined. And we kind of have a joke here that we show a picture of before a heat wave and then we show a picture after a heat wave and it's the same picture. And that's part of the problem because people see tornadoes and houses are upended and hurricanes and trees and utility poles, and it's this invisible killer.
So it sounds like heat among the various climate disasters does not get enough love from the media and the government.
It absolutely does not get enough love.
Of course, heat waves aren't the only result of the warming planet. Heat also dries out vegetation, and we get fires. Heat evaporates the land, so we get droughts. Heat evaporates the oceans, so we get hurricanes. The Nature Conservancy's Becca Benner cautions us not to think of this summer's heat as something freakish and rare. It's the new normal.
It is no longer a future threat. We are living this now. So whether your basement just flooded, whether you just had to evacuate for a fire, whether it's too hot for you to go outside and enjoy yourself, that means we are now experiencing some of the impacts of climate change. We have to reduce emissions, and we have to do it immediately and faster.
Discuss the generation of heat domes. Give examples from regions which have witnessed heat domes recently. Okay. Discuss the generation. Discuss the generation of heat domes. Heat domes. Okay. And क्या है? Give examples from regions which have witnessed heat domes recently. Give examples from regions experiencing heat domes. Heat domes recently. ठीक है? So California में हुआ है. We've had this in Canada also. Okay, strong heat waves रहे हैं. Yes, Canadian Shield region, Californian region, the western coast of Pacific of North America is areas where they have had heat domes. Okay, heat dome phenomena, I think 2019 में, it was also in southern Europe. Southern Europe, में, they literally went crazy. Discuss the generation. Discuss the generation of heat domes. Heat domes. Okay, and क्या है? Give examples from regions which have witnessed heat domes recently. Give examples from regions experiencing heat domes. Heat domes recently. ठीक है? So California में हुआ है. We've had this in Canada also. Okay, strong heat waves रहे हैं. Yes, Canadian Shield region, Californian region, the western coast of Pacific of North America is areas where they have had heat domes. But heat dome phenomena, I think 2019 में, it was also in southern Europe. Southern Europe, parts of France, France, Italy has witnessed this. Southern Europe, France, Paris was crazy hot. 2019, the heat dome phenomena. We also had, I think, 2016 में, it was London. It's called as the London heat, like a massive heating of the cities. Unlike, they literally went crazy. I know these areas, they do not have air conditioners for cooling. Their air conditioners are for warming. Okay, and no fan. Okay, they literally were roasting because of this. Okay, you know the context now. Okay. By the way, one suggestion to all of you. Dekho, these questions may not be asked like this. Okay, but remember that any question on climate change, any questions related to maybe urban problems, any questions related to monsoon disruption, ये सारा आप add कर सकते हो. So if I have a question around monsoon disruption, I can add a small paragraph on the cloudburst in India, or maybe discuss the vulnerability because of climate change. I can add a paragraph or two on this heat dome phenomena of North America and Western Europe. So this is the smartness, all of you. Even if the same question is not asked, you should be ready to use it in some related questions beyond what your syllabus demands. So let's start off with this. Okay. Now see, so heat dome क्या है? Okay, I'll just explain quickly. What is a heat dome? So heat dome का 5 elements है. Okay, remember this? आपको याद रह जाएगा. 5. So, a phenomena. What is it? So 5 elements. What is it? It's a high temperatures. This is persistent temperatures. Persistently high temperatures. This is regional and local phenomena. It is associated with upper tropospheric winds and high pressure conditions, and these are mostly related to dry heat. ये 4 elements हैं. Okay, that high temperature होगा. High temperature average can be more than 3 to 5 degrees above normal. That's a very strong heat. Like in fact, there are moments when Canada was witnessing temperatures of almost 7-8 degrees above the normal. And persistent temperatures for almost 5 to 6 days. It can last for a week also. It's a persistent high temperature, 5-6 days to 1 week. It's a regional and a local phenomena. So this is actually abnormal. This is not what should happen. Abnormal hai. Related to upper tropospheric winds and high pressure conditions. Plus there is dry heat. Okay, this is the what aspect. Okay, now in terms of why do we have it? Why में क्या है? Okay, so it is warm ocean air influx that gets trapped in atmospheric high pressure conditions. In atmospheric high pressure conditions, it's a warm ocean air in flux. Okay, that gets trapped in atmospheric high pressure conditions. Second is जो isobaric okay condition है. Okay, this is also referred to as, anybody knows the term? The isobaric condition है. What is it referred to as? It's referred to as omega blocking. Remember this. Is referred to as omega blocking. Because why? The high pressure है. The high pressure, it looks like this. ऐसे होगा high pressure. This is the typical letter, omega letter. This is high pressure. Okay, you go out progressively low pressure. So in those languages, this is the omega. So omega blocking क्यों बोलते हैं? Why? Because the isobars develop strong anticyclones conditions in a form of omega loop in shape. That's why isobaric conditions को omega blocking भी बोलते हैं. It's also called as omega blocking. Okay, and third is the high pressure and descending winds further warm the air. This is what is the adiabatic warming. ये तीन conditions की वजह से we have this heat dome. Warm air from the ocean in flux in the mid latitudes. This is in the westerly wind belt. Okay, so from the Pacific Ocean, the air from the Pacific Ocean into the western North America, or from Atlantic into the western Europe. The warm air in flux that gets trapped in atmospheric high pressure conditions, or the atmospheric high pressure जो है, that is an isobaric conditions called as omega blocking. Why omega blocking? Why? The isobars, okay, जो trends हैं, they are strong. Isobars are a strong anticyclone condition in the form of a loop that is omega in shape. That's why it's called as the omega blocking. And finally, I said the high pressure and the descending winds, the air आपका push descending winds further warm the air, okay, resulting in adiabatic warming. So adiabatic warming. I think it's okay till here, all of you. इतने ही आप कैंसर बन गया more or less. आप देखो तो you don't need to know more than this. So the diagram you can draw is there. I'll show the diagram to you. This is the surface here. This is the air pressure. Air is sinking. Okay. So this is the influx of the warm air. Okay. So this is the influx of the warm air. So influx of warm air. This is descending winds because of the high pressure. Because of high pressure conditions, descending winds. Okay. And the descending winds will further warm up. Will further warm up because of adiabatic warming. Okay. The point here is that the warm air gets trapped. It gets trapped in a stationary high pressure conditions. The stationary high pressure conditions. That's all. If you have this much, it's done. So look at the model answer. Not more than 2 pages. Okay, all of you. You'll have to learn to develop those kind heat domes. So heat domes generated when atmosphere traps hot ocean air like a lid. So then we have rising temperature, hotter air, heat waves. Okay, heat waves affected 25% more land in northern hemisphere. So Pacific Northwest में है, historic this one. So something in California, Portland region in US. Okay, 46 degrees after 1981. It's called as the omega block because it looks like the Greek letter omega. Also in California, witnessing heat domes. Okay, so heat waves are becoming more common today because of climate change. That's all. Okay, so जल्दी से 2 पेज के अंदर में with some diagrams. Okay, this is the location that it shows. Okay, so this is the heat dome. It shows a dome here. Okay, so sinking air here. So because of compression, this is the adiabatic compression, and we can have heat strokes, wildfire. So Californian fires are partly because of this. These are more localized. Okay, localized not in terms of a small city alone. It can be a bit more bigger than that. So I have not come across any size of the area, so I can't comment. Just keep it as a city. Keep it as parts of California. देखना पड़ेगा what size it is. So you know about Californian forest fires, no? So these heat domes added to the forest fires of California. Of course, California has a longer history of vandalism in forest fires, but okay, this is one. Conclusion, take it towards the consequence, no? Consequence, forest fires, heat waves. You can talk about the problems because of climate change. Like an example of extreme events. बस ठीक है, 2 लाइन में खत्म करो.